Radhe Radhe. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. May this be an offering to Shri Radha Krishna. And as we await our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space as being an all-inclusive, welcoming environment, open to everyone, regardless of how you're feeling right now, how you choose to identify what your belief system is, or any other thing that may differentiate us on the surface. May you feel accepted, comfortable, welcomed here. Om. Welcome, Sky Guardian. Hello, Amanda Michelle. I trust that all those who are coming in are feeling as well as they can, given whatever circumstances they may be going through, lessons or blessings in their life right now. And may we come together as a Sangha to uplift one another, share positive sentiments, and relate in one another's experiences. Hello, Ragnhildur. Hello, Rachel Blackmoon. And yes, I will text you as soon as I get the book you've sent me, my friend. Welcome, everyone. Namaste, Echo Leaf. Thank you, Southern Sassy Sadie, for blessing us with a rose so early. Radhe Radhe. Hello, Hazel. Hello, Atma. Hello, Onikaya. I was wondering if you all were interested in attending to my question of the day today, since I like to begin these sanghas with a question, followed by a short reading, and then we will do a regular Q&A format. Hello, Rygon. How am I always this positive? See, might as well be. You might as well be positive. There's no harm in it, that's for sure. And Hari Om Usha, good to see you, Quartz Resort. Thank you, Usha, for your quartet of roses too. Radhe Radhe. My question of the day today was, what's better than small talk? You know, sometimes we really want to get into a different subject matter or conversate on something maybe deeper. What's better than that small talk that we start with at the beginning of our sentences? Deep conversation, says Amanda. That is true. Elohim, you share the complexities of life. That is certainly more interesting than small talk, I agree. And well said, strung by Stacy. Comfortable silence. Ah, that's nice. Yeah, and Echo Leaf echoes the sentiment of silence. A friendly hug, says Adma. That is nice. Yeah, so much is exchanged, even in physical contact, without words. And thank you, Yasmin, for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. You say, watching the stars. Ah, I love that too. Yeah. Vixolent, you share knowing someone that you don't even need to talk. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. And Mary asks the age-old philosophical question: to conversate or converse? I'm genuinely curious. Well, that makes two of us, Mary. I'm sure someone knows, though. Red Fox Mooncrafts, you say experiencing something together. I love that. Yeah. In Quartz Resort, you share the excitement over having something in common. Oh, isn't that great? Yeah. Sleep, says Southern Sassy Sadie. Sleep is, to be fair, one of the best things there is. Away from the waking world. And Om Namo Narayanaya. A philosophical conversation, said Rachel. Meaningful, solving conversation. I like that word choice, John F. Solving. Yeah. Sharing memories, says Katrina. And Strung by Stacy, you say a rub on the back of the shoulder is usually nice. Loopy Lane, you share that a neighbor hugged you earlier today. A moment. That's nice. Yeah, to really feel accepted in your neighborhood. To know that you have a little safety net around you. Melinda says eyebrow dances. You know, I can't say I've experienced that, but from the sounds of it, yeah, that's infinitely better than small talk. Sacred Serenity says, what you're doing here is better than small talk. That's good, I suppose. Thank you. And thank you, John F., for your rose a few minutes ago. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, This Is My Show, for your origami paper crane. Jai Sita Ram. And Bobby Sue Cliff. Thank you for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. A, the letter A, also says big talk. You know, can't see I didn't see that coming. Big talk is better than small talk. And Strung by Stacy, you like to mix whimsy into your small talk humor whenever possible. I do love some good whimsical small talk. Yes. Well, lovely. I'm very happy to hear that you all are very aware of some of the subtler kinds of experiences we can share together that are more rewarding than sometimes just talking about what's on the surface of life. So, thank you all for attending to my question of the day. And thank you, Loopy Lane, for your trio of flowers. Radhe, Radhe. A TED Talk. I do love a good TED Talk, that's for sure. Yeah. And thank you, Sarah Cutie Pie, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. My reading of today is continuing in the spiritual teachings of Ramana Maharshi. If you are someone who prefers direct communication, then this book certainly skips over the small talk. Here we are in the first chapter, discussing who am I? You know, from a spiritual perspective, what am I? And the method of self-inquiry is the method of spirituality that Ramana Maharshi recommends. So, spiritual practitioner asks, what is the nature of the self? He responds, what exists in truth is the self alone. The world, the individual soul, and even God are appearances in it. Like silver in mother of pearl, These three appear at the same time and disappear at the same time. The self is that where there is absolutely no I thought. That is called silence. The self itself is the world. The self itself is I. The self itself is God. All is Shiva, the self. Questioner asks, is not everything the work of God? Ramana Maharshi responds, without desire, resolve, or effort, the sun rises, and in its mere presence, the sunstone emits fire, the lotus blooms, water evaporates, people perform their various functions, and then rest. Just as in the presence of the magnet, the needle moves, it is by virtue of the mere presence of God that the souls governed by the three cosmic functions, or the fivefold divine activity, perform their actions and then rest in accordance with their respective karmas. God has no resolve. No karma attaches itself to him. This is like worldly actions not affecting the sun, or like the merits and demerits of the other four elements not affecting the all-pervading ether. Questioner asks, of the devotees, who is the greatest? He who gives himself up to that self that is God is the most excellent devotee. Giving one's self up to God means remaining constantly in the self without giving room for the rise of any thoughts other than the thought of the self. Whatever burdens are thrown on God, he bears them. Since the supreme power of God makes all things move, why should we, without submitting ourselves to it, constantly worry ourselves with thoughts as to what should be done and how, and what should not be done and how not? We know that the train carries all loads, so after getting on it, why should we carry our small luggage on in our head to our discomfort instead of putting it down in the train and feeling at ease? Questioner asks, what is non-attachment? It's a common question among spiritual circles. As thoughts arise, destroying them utterly without any residue in the very place of their origin is non-attachment. Just as the pearl diver ties a stone to his waist, sinks to the bottom of the sea, and there takes the pearls, so each one of us should be endowed with non-attachment, dive within himself, and obtain the self-pearl. No, I have not read Kafta. One more question. Is it not possible for God and the Guru to effect the release of a soul? God and Guru will only show the way to release. They will not by themselves take the soul to the state of release. In truth, God and the Guru are not different. Just as the prey which has fallen into the jaws of a tiger has no escape, So those who have come within the ambit of the Guru's gracious look will be saved by the Guru and will not get lost. Yet, each one should, by his own effort, pursue the path shown by God or Guru and gain release. One can know oneself only with one's own eye of knowledge, and not with somebody else's. Does he who is Rama, another name for God, require the help of a mirror to know that he is Rama? Actually, I think the next two questions are also quite delicious. We'll read just these two more and then continue with our regular format. Is it necessary for one who longs for release to inquire into the nature of categories, tattvas? Just as one who wants to throw away garbage has no need to analyze it and see what it is, so no one who wants to know the self has no need to count the number of categories or inquire into their characteristics. What he has to do is to reject altogether the categories that hide the self. The world should be considered like a dream. That is to say, we don't need to intellectually draw boundaries around parts of ourselves and label them in order to come to understanding of it. Questioner asks, is there no difference between waking and dream? Waking is long and a dream short. Other than this, there is no difference. Just as waking happenings seem real while awake, so do those in a dream while dreaming. In dream, the mind takes on another body. In both waking and dream states, thoughts, names, and forms occur simultaneously. And one last question. I know I said 2, but I meant 3. Is it any use reading books for those who long for release? Here we are reading a book, longing for liberation. It's a good question. All the texts say that in order to gain release, one should render the mind quiescent. Therefore, their conclusive teaching is that the mind should be rendered quiescent. Once this has been understood, there is no need for endless reading. In order to quiet the mind, one has only to inquire within oneself what oneself is. How could this search be done in books? One should know oneself with one's own eye of wisdom. The self is within the 5 sheaths, but books are outside them. Since the self has to be inquired into by discarding the 5 sheaths, it is futile to search for it in books. There will come a time when one will have to forget all that one has learned. Okay, now we are pausing for real this time. So I thank you all for listening with me in this self-inquiry in the spiritual teachings of Ramana Maharshi. So there he has said himself, put the book away. So we have. I'm happy you enjoyed the reading, and thank you to those who sent a gift whilst I read. Do allow me your patience in getting back to you with your gratitude now. Sarah Cutie Pie, thank you for your rose. Radhe Radhe. And Neighbor Lady, Thank you for your heart meet. Jai Sita Ram. Is there something in my hair? I was out in the bushes. I was picking a lot of twigs and stuff out of my hair earlier, trying to find Sandy, who had ran off into the bushes. My cat. That's okay. I feel like a little forest creature with all of the stuff in my hair. And thank you, Alan, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Sky Guardian, you say, Sai, why is the book I sent taken forever? Why do you live on an island? Yeah, it just makes it that much more appealing to read when it does arrive, since it shall be that much more satisfactory given our patience. Loopy Lane, you ask a great question. What are the 5 sheaths that Ramana Maharshi was talking about? It's one school of philosophy in Hinduism which talks about the body as being of 5 different layers. I'm not entirely sure what the exact order of the layers are, but it starts with the body and then subtler parts of our being like our mind, our emotions, our impressions, our causal body. But the innermost sheath is the Anandamaya Kosha, and that is the sheath of bliss itself. So imagine taking off layers of your experience and ending up at bliss, being the innermost layer. It's a powerful idea that what you are, in essence, is bliss. You know, you think it's something really specific, like maybe it's some precise geometric structure that has this shape and according to these laws of physics behaves in this way. But the conclusion of the ancient sages was that what you are, in truth, is bliss. Very bizarre thought, that is. That's the innermost kosha, or layer, or sheath. And thank you, Jared, for your heart meet. Team Bracelet and Cheer You Up you sent a few minutes ago. Radhe, Radhe. Berry Water, you ask, why can't I get what I want sometimes? It's actually a big blessing that we don't get what we want. We change our mind so quickly. I remember a story of a man who was starving in the middle of a desert, completely lost, and he saw on the horizon what at first he mistook for a mirage. He thought, no, that can't be an oasis. But sure enough, there actually was an oasis. And so this, literally deserted man ended up in the oasis, and he had a drink from the pond, and he went to sleep underneath the shade of a palm tree. Little did he know, this was actually a wish-fulfilling palm tree. Everything that he thought of underneath that tree manifested itself. So of course he was dreaming of a delicious 3-course meal, lobster, crab, cake, big steak dinner. He woke up and it was all there, and he couldn't believe his eyes. Oh my God, he started eating. My goodness, this is amazing. I'm living like a king. And the moment that idea came into his head, that he was a king, a crown appeared on his head. My goodness, wow. If only I had a kingdom. Kingdom appeared around him. He thought, if I could just have a bunch of beautiful women spawned into existence, My goodness. Everything I think of happens. He was starting to catch on. Well, I hope I don't die. And then he died. That's the end of the story. So it's a very good thing that the universe doesn't manifest everything that we think of. All of us would be out of existence within a couple seconds. The world record would probably only be a few minutes before someone thought of something they didn't actually want. Now, thank you. Oh, one with a wonderful name which I still have yet to learn how to pronounce. Radhe, Radhe. Hello, Aquarius lady. And hola, Holly. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for your team bracelet and cheer you up too. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Now, Usha, you ask who won the chess game yesterday. Yes, I ended my live early so I could go and play a chess game with my father. Unfortunately, since I had lost track of time, by the time I did end my live stream, although it was early for you guys, it was too late for him. So I ended up missing my chance to play a chess game with him. But he was understanding, and I look forward to rescheduling for another game. Holly, you ask, can mindfulness help with CPTSD? Mindfulness is always going to help, whatever it is. It's not a magic treatment that's going to solve all your problems. We still have to put in the effort to heal our traumas in other ways too. But mindfulness is always going to increase the ability for us to stay positive, even when difficult thoughts and memories arise to the surface. Mindfulness can help us cultivate a little bit of space in between ourselves and what we're experiencing, so we don't feel like we're stuck in the action of it all. Which parts would I recommend? What would I recommend in mindfulness? I would recommend that noticing that there is a gap between what you've experienced and who you are. If you set some time aside to meditate on this idea that the experience hasn't truly touched you, what you are is untouchable. In your essence, as this energy that inhabits your body, no matter what the body goes through, your energy, your consciousness, that is forever distant from what your body actually goes through. Increasing our awareness of that distance between the self and the objects, the events in our experience, that can make us feel like we're safe, even when something difficult is appearing to our mind or body. And thank you, Alan, for another tiny 3 of them I count, actually. Thank you. Yippee! And thank you for asking, Holly. I think it's a beautiful thing that you want to befriend that side of you. And thank you. This is my show for your heart meat. Radhe, Radhe. And Jarrett, thank you for your tiny too. Yahoo! Hi, Gaia. And thank you, Bo, for your trio of roses. And thank you, Tatvamasi, for your quintet of roses. Amanda Michelle, you ask, can you describe a day in the life of Yam? I pretty much do something different every day. But today I woke up, I said my prayer of gratitude to the universe, and I started studying Sanskrit. I bought a Sanskrit textbook that I really like, and so I sat down at my kitchen table and just started studying, practicing, and I played with my cats a little bit, took them in and outside of the yard. I had a walk down the main street in the rain and came back. Now I'm here with all of you. Thank you, Nunya, for your team bracelet. Radhi, Radhi, and divinely chosen. Thank you for your heartbeat. Jai Sita Ram. Gregar, you ask, will you teach us a Sanskrit word or phrase of the day? Let's see. We could do Sat Samarami. Sat Smarami. It means I remember truth. Sat Smarami. I do ASMR a little bit on my ASMR YouTube channel, Yamsox ASMR. I like your transliteration attempts, Jose and Tatvamasi. Tatvamasi, you got the Sat right, and Jose, you got the Smarami right. You combine your answers together, then there you go. Amanda, you are wondering what made me want to learn Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the oldest language that we know of. Almost every language that you can think of has been derived from Sanskrit. As such, it contains the largest body of philosophical, spiritual, scientific literature spanning back 5,000 years. Practically all the spiritual words, they come from Sanskrit. There are no equivalents, especially in English, such is why many spiritual words that come from Sanskrit, we just leave in Sanskrit. We don't even try to translate. Like yoga, like chakra, like mantra, like guru, like kundalini. I'm sure you all are familiar with at least a few of those spiritual Sanskrit words. And thank you, Dan How You, for your heart me a minute ago. The happiest hippie, thank you for your 7 roses. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Bo, for your trio of roses. Hello, Lena. Jack, you ask, does my house have a cool view? My mother has done a wonderful job taking care of the flowers around our house. So although there's nothing like a landmark in particular, I love looking at the garden that my mother has made. Familia, you ask. Have you ever sinned? Who hasn't? Of course. No one has ever lived without sinning. Sorry, my nose is itchy. But it's not the sum total of virtues versus sins that make our life what it is. It is how we are willing to change. That is what matters most. And very well, Nunya. Good transliteration into Devanagari. Perfect. And thank you, Divinely Chosen, for your flowers. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Jared, for your flowers too. Jai Sita Ram. Adam Hot Dad, you ask, what's your opinion on chemical contaminants on the brain and the effect on spiritual / self-growth? It's important that we take care of this body, and one of the best ways we can do that is by eating more organic, fresh food. Of course, the chemicals that are in our food aren't making us healthier, to put it liberally. However, if you truly wanted to be free from every kind of chemical, you'd be spending 99% of your energy doing that. No matter where you are in the world, we all have microplastics in our body. I wouldn't worry too much, because at the end of the day, your body is your vehicle of service. That's its purpose. The purpose of the body is to serve others. As long as you are still able to do that, in whatever way you have capacity for, then that's fine. As a soul, your body could be unhealthy, but your soul is still one. And an unhealthy body does not impede your spiritual journey. Consider, for example, those with a terminal illness, like some late-stage cancers. Would you say that the wisdom that these people have is somehow tainted by their body's health? Not at all. In fact, sometimes these people who are going through such battles with their health have the most sublime wisdom to offer. Consider the story of the great sage Ashtavakra. His name literally means Ashtavakra, 8 deformities. His body was not what you'd consider typical. He had many growth defects and he walked with a cane. And most people avoided him. He was not pretty on the eyes. However, he was a sage, and if you could look at him with an open heart, he would sing to you his song, known as the Ashtavakra Gita. That song of his contains some of the most highest truths that is possible to witness. I'll give you a little teaser translated into English. He once sung his song to a great king, King Janaka. King Janaka asked, How is knowledge to be achieved, detachment acquired, liberation attained? Ashtavakra responded, to be free, shun the experiences of the senses like poison. Turn your attention to forgiveness, sincerity, truth, humility. You are not earth, water, fire, nor air, nor are you even empty space. You are awareness alone, the witness of these. Abide in awareness with no illusion of person, and you will be instantly free and at peace. So, did the physical health of this sage prevent him from being wise, from being enlightened? Not at all. In fact, he was able to create a beautiful story out of his appearance. It gave him the ability to tell the truth only to those who saw him as fully human, as an equal. Any less than that, people would walk by without ever having heard the Ashtavakra Gita. And thank you. Thank you, Jared, for your flowers you sent a few minutes ago. And thank you, Divinely Chosen, for your flowers. Jai Sita Ram. Thank you, Lindell, for your rose. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, Ron, for your heart meat. Radhe Radhe. And this is my show. Thank you for your paper crane. Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, Jared, for your confetti. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Adriti, for your dozen roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for your 28 finger hearts. Bless you. I'm happy that a few of you are feeling calm. The least I could do, provide a space such as this. George, you ask, do I do any woodworking? It's a funny question, George. I often fall asleep to woodworking. Something about someone being skilled in a craft just puts me to sleep. Metalworking too. In real life, I have not done much woodworking. I made myself a chessboard in grade 6, grade 7, grade 8. And I made a catio for my cats outside. They seemed to love it. While I was building it, over the span of 3 days, they would watch me from the window, and, the first day, they were just confused why I was outside all day. And the second day, they seemed to pick up that I was doing something for them, because when I came back inside, they were just so full of love. And by the third day it was done, they were just ready to go inside of it. They knew that this was their little home outside, and I can't get them out of there. They love it so much. Every morning they meow at the door to take them out there into their little catio, and that makes my heart just fill with joy that they appreciate it. So I do love woodworking, but it's not something that's my occupation or that I'm formally trained in or anything like that. Thank you, Liv, for your lock and key. Radhi, Radhi. Stoneworking too, very relaxing. Yeah. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for another pair of finger hearts. Radhi, Radhi. And George, you do it for mind peace. I like that. There's something about, well, the Sanskrit term is karma yoga, union through action. Get lost in the discipline itself and you will find peace. And thank you, This Is My Show, for your 10 ginger men. Radhi, Radhi. And thank you, Ragnhildur, for your rose. Hello, Small. Saturnus, you ask, what's your favorite word in English? I'll have to ask all of you while I think of one. I'd love to know what your favorite words are in English. And I can say them out loud, and at the end, maybe I can give you my opinion. Junior Geek, you say love. That's a good word. Peace, says Gregor. Sky Guardian says Yamuel, your nickname for me, hey. Helping Humans says determinism. It's a very satisfying word, yeah. Kawabunga, says Bo. Family, says Martin. Pure, says Liv. Now, says Saturnus. Serenity, says Sherry O'Connor. Dank, says Gaia. It's a good word. Daisy likes love as well. This Is My Show, says Hippopotamonstrose quipped Aliophobia. That'd be a great name for the fear of long words. Irregular, says Ragnhildur. Bam Bam, says Chris. Hello, brah. Serendipity, says Going Places. Here, says Nora. Spark sounds cool, says Dr. Geek. Sorry, Junior Geek. Messed up your name in 2 different ways. Well, sounds like we got a good set of favorite names. So, thank you all. And favorite words. The word that came to my mind while thinking of a satisfying word is not. Not, but not. Not, N-O-T, not, but not N-A-U-G-H-T, not. And not K-N-O-T. My goodness, this is a mouthful. Tying my tongue in knots, just trying to distinguish between not, and not. Draco, you ask, are we all God? Consciousness? We use the word God in many different ways. We are God in the sense of Paramatman, in that he is our higher self. But God exists in 2 other ways. Brahman and Brahman and Bhagavan. The trinity of God, that is the 3 different ways that we use the word God, is Bhagavan, Brahman, and Paramatman. The Brahman means the all-pervasive container of this reality. We aren't that. If I were all-pervasive, then I could listen in on your thoughts and you could listen in on mine. Clearly, however, this is not the case. We do have a limited perception of all that exists. So we are not God in the sense of Brahman, but a consequence of Brahman, a consequence of God existing as the omnipresent, means that a part of him is within us too. If he is within all things, then he is within us as well. So that part of him that is in us as a consequence of Brahman is known as the Paramatman. Param meaning highest, Atman meaning self. Paramatman, the higher self. Hello, Sandy Beans. How did you do that? That's a magic trick. I let you out before the live stream began, and now you've appeared in my room again. You're a magic cat, Sandy. Hello. And finally, those beings which exemplify their higher self, they are not identified at all with their lower self. They are totally a vehicle for their Paramatman. Those we call Bhagavan. We call them God in the physical form. For example, like Jesus Christ. He was born in a womb. He had a physical body. There was a human component to him. But he was only identified with the Paramatman, the higher self. There was no ego getting in the way. So talking to him is like talking directly to the higher self, to God. Thank you, Dabini, for your heartbeat. Radhe, Radhe. Gregor, you ask, was Krishna also an immaculate conception? I think he was. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, his mother, she felt a baby in her womb being developed over however long it was, 9 months. But the moment that she was to give birth, she fell asleep. And when she woke up, there was no longer a baby in her stomach, and there was the divine form of Krishna. And she was like, wow, Pranam, my goodness, I have given birth to God. He said, no, I wasn't really in your womb. Through the power of my Yoga Maya, I made it seem like you were carrying me, so that you develop the attachment to me. But while you were asleep, I removed that sensation and manifested here. She went, well, it's not as exciting then. What's the point in pretending to give birth to you when you've manifested as a grown man? Can you please just manifest as my baby so I can love you as one? So Krishna said, okay, fine. Snapped his fingers became into a tiny baby form. And then his mother took care of him as such. See you later, George. Thanks for sticking around. And thank you, AI, for your 10 roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Mackenzie, for your heartmeat. Jai Sita Rama. And thank you, Jarrett, for your 10 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. Saturnus, you ask, what sound does tiny Krishna make? Well, big Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he is the sound of Om. So I suppose a tiny Krishna would make a tiny Om. 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 Thank you, John Simon, for your heartbeat. Radhe, Radhe. And Jarrett, thank you for your donut. Jai Sita Ram. Gregor, you share that in the apocryphal text, tiny Yeshua was able to talk as soon as he was born. How interesting is that? I believe the Buddha similarly scared, I'm sure, everyone in the room. When he is born, it is said that the Buddha said, actually he took 7 steps, and on each step a lotus flower bloomed, and at the end of walking 7 paces he spoke, "This is my final life. There are no more incarnations." I think if that happened to anyone else, they'd scream and run away. But no, this was a divine baby, not a demonic one. And thank you, Sacred Serenity, for your heart me and octet of team bracelets. Jai Sita Ram. And Shakira, thank you for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. 31 planes of existence. You ask, what's the story of Krishna stealing butter when he was a baby? You can't remember. I've heard of this story. Well, I've been imagining this story. Sometimes when I look for pictures of Krishna online, like when I was trying to print out this picture, I'd get picture after picture of baby Krishna with his hand in the butter jar, butter all over himself. And so I started wondering, my goodness, this must have been a classic Leela, divine story. I'm excited to hear that one, but I have yet to hear it myself, so when I do, I'll tell you. He's like the peanut butter baby, yeah. And thank you, Lex, for your heart meat too. And Bo, thank you for your trio of roses. One classic girl, you ask, are you a vampire? Because you, my friend, have lived many lives. Thank you, that's very kind of you. I think I'm just Irish. You know, the Irish, they don't tan, they just burn. No matter how hard you try, you step into sunlight, you just turn red. Now, Notebook, you ask a good question. What is your opinion on assisted euthanasia in humans? In our culture, death is very taboo. We hide our loved ones. We want to imagine that we get this one life, and in this one life we must live it to the best of our abilities. And so sometimes we may stigmatize the choice of leaving this world out of a projection of our own insecurity to make our one lifetime as meaningful as we can. And of course, we can't generalize, because the kind of suffering that one person is going through is going to be much different than the kind of suffering that a different person goes through. Naturally, these things have to be settled on a case-by-case basis, in my opinion. It is our choice what we want to do with our body. Whether other people become attached to you in this body of yours now is not something we can control. The Buddhists, they share that death is not the end of suffering. We just go from one body to the next. Sometimes it's a brave choice to make, to decide when to leave. But it can also be an even braver choice to not leave, to find the beauty even amidst the suffering. But that's not always easy. And thank you, Pantagor, for your heartmeat and Tiny Tiny. Yippee! And thank you, Lex, for your Tiny Tiny too. Yahoo! 31 planes of existence. Thank you for your hanging lights as well. Radhe Radhe. Saturnus, you ask, I wonder how much of our personality / outlook follows us from life to life. Do we start all over, clean slate? How many mothers are in this chat? And how many of you can tell us whether your baby was born with a personality or not? I will make a wager that there's not a single mother in here that won't say her baby wasn't born with a personality. So take it from them. Oh yes. Thank you. And thank you, Audrey D, for your quintet of roses. Radhe Radhe. There is there's something more than just the attributeless soul that continues through death and rebirth. There is some spark of life that says, I've been here before, and I know what I want, and I know what I have to do to get what I want. And somehow when we grow up, we might lose track of that direction. But it's always there. We all have our impressions and inclinations. Now, Shakira, you ask, OMG, do you think babies speak or talking normal is better for babies? How about a good mix? Of course. I believe studies have shown that when we treat babies like they're adults, then they grow up too fast. But if we treat children like they're babies, then they never grow up. So there has to be some balance between relating on that cute emotional level as well as not using that change in tone to mean that they are less than if that makes sense. For example, I remember my father. He would talk to me in the tone of me being a baby, me being a little youngling. However, he would still talk about big concepts and enjoy philosophizing in the way that we could. A baby's not gonna philosophize over why existence is. But, I'd ask why the sun rises every day. Why doesn't the moon crash into the sun? What the meaning of various words are. And he would attend to my inquiries seriously. His attention was serious, but he had a playful tone of voice. And I think that was a good example of a balance that was struck well. Thank you, one cheeky chick, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. And Diane, you ask, am I close with my parents? I would say yes. Yeah, very close. And thank you, Melinda, for your rose too. Jai Sita Rama. And Lonella, thank you for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Hannah, for your heartbeat. Radhe, Radhe. Alyssa, you remember when my mom came on the live? Yes, she was so embarrassed. She instantly started blushing and was scared to speak to a couple hundred people. But she enjoyed it. I know she did. Vibu, you share that I look like Jar Jar Binks. Misa no Jar Jar Binks. Misa Yamsox. Thank you, Storm, for your heartbeat. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Aaron, for your rose up. Jai Sita Rama. MJ, you share that you watched my anti-anxiety video last night and it was helpful. I'm happy to hear that. If you have any recommendations for how I could make a part 2, I'd love to make an even more attentive video. Shalomi, homie, says Jacob. Now that's a great way to greet someone. Thank you, Jacob, for your TGIF. You must be in the future. It's Thursday for me still. For your TGIF, a GG, a finger heart, ice cream cone, rosa, and disco love. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Sid, for your heartbeat. And thank you for another 7 roses too. Jai Sita Rama. Lex, you ask, have I thought about doing dreads? I've never thought of dreads. However, I have thought of some other yogic hairstyles. My hair naturally mats itself, but there's a way of matting your hair into strands that the yogis do so that you don't have to worry about it. And I like that idea. Of course, I think my mother would kill me. Well said, Jacob. You always want to live in the future. Here's a question for you. if we ask everyone in every time zone to just go north, and they all meet up at the North Pole, what time is it? And thank you, Ricky, for your tiny. Yippee! Whatever time they want it to be, says Amanda. Now, says Saturnus. And thank you, MJ, for your quartet of finger hearts. Radhe. 9:23, says Bo. And 2 p.m, said Shakira. Midnight, says Zim. It's present time, new friends. Very sweet, Ansuela. I like your answer. And thank you, Nunya, for your GG. Radhe. Zim, you had asked what my ASMR channel was. It's Yamsox ASMR. And you can find it in the link tree in my bio as well. At the moment, it's the second link. G to infinity here with the correct answer. The North Pole has no designated time zone. Alright, fair enough. My next question is, what day is it then on the North Pole? Small, you share that you want to find the live that had my mom in it, but there's so many. Actually, I think the live that had my mom in it was one of them that came out just before I started uploading the lives to my YouTube channel. So I'm afraid I don't think you'll find it. Thank you, Jacob, for your hat and mustache. Yeehaw! Now, 31 planes of existence. You share new fear. You say the Buddhists say death is not the end of suffering. How do we get a break from it? Nirvana. The Buddhist word for hell is samsara, and what it means is the cycle of births and deaths. So nirvana is being free from constantly being born again and again. So you might start making nirvana out to be your goal, that I have to somehow escape this samsara by attaining to this other dimension that they call nirvana. And if we're just looking at the linguistics of how we use these words, you might come to this kind of perception as samsara being this cycle of births and deaths, and nirvana being some metaphysical dimension in which you are nothingness, and in that nothingness you are liberated. However, I remind you all of the most commonly overlooked part of the Buddha's enlightenment. Moments before the Buddha reached enlightenment, he was crossing a river. And while crossing that river, he was so emaciated by all the austerities that he was putting his body through, trying to just be liberated, finally. And so this had quite the toll on his well-being. He almost got swept away in the current while he was grabbing onto a tree that had fallen. He didn't think he'd actually make it to the other end of the riverside. He thought at any moment this tree branch snaps, that's it. I'll have to be reborn again. So he thought, enough of this journeying, enough of this trying to be liberated. I'm going to the other side. I'm going to sit down, and I'm not going to get up until I either die or I become awake. And that gave him the strength he needed to cross the river, sit down under the Bodhi tree. And the moment he determined like this, with resolute firmness, I will not get up until I die or become awakened, what do you think happened? The moment he sat down, he got enlightened. But what was it like in that moment that he sat down? See, the moment that he sat down, he realized, I've got to stand up. I cannot leave this reality until I guide everyone else out the door. If I am meant to be the next Buddha, then as the captain of the ship, I must go down with the ship until everyone else has been free. So the Buddha actually rejected Nirvana in order to save everyone else. And again, you may think, that's a nice answer, a nice story. What a lovely person. But there's another layer of spiritual meaning here. That maybe the true liberation is not trying to escape. It's in the selfless service that we do to everyone. And that can make the suffering bearable. When we are doing things not just for our own pursuit, but for the pursuit of happiness of others, then it doesn't matter what challenges come our way. Consider, for example, if you were to buy yourself a chocolate bar, and while walking home a seagull comes, takes it, and flies away. You'd go, oh, what the heck, and walk home without it, empty-handed. However, if you had bought this gift for, let's say, your girlfriend, and your girlfriend, my goodness, you and her were not on good terms. She knows that this chocolate means a lot to her, and that you were listening to her when she said that she liked this particular brand of chocolate. When the same seagull snatches the same chocolate bar out of your hand, suddenly you're chasing that thing down. Damn right. You're not going to let this bird take away this chocolate bar, because it's not for you anymore. It's for someone else. You would fight for it. Likewise, when we are living not just for ourselves anymore, but for others, then the suffering becomes bearable. We become liberated from it in a transcendental sense. Just ask any parent all of the pain that they'd go through in order to take care of their children, and all the pain they have already gone through. A good parent, at least. And thank you, Naur Walkrikrasi, for your hand hearts. Radhe Radhe. Alice DeWalt, you ask, will I understand the power of thoughts if I don't know Buddhism? Yes, it's a very introductory book, and you have no prior background needed. And thank you, Eva, for your 18 roses. Radhe Radhe. Sadie, you ask, do I mantra chant? I do. I do nama japa, the chanting of the holy names. In every waking breath that I'm not already attending to the service of someone. I obviously can't chant and do a sangha at the same time. But when I'm not doing a sangha, for example, I do nama japa, the recitation of the holy names. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's one way to keep your mind one-pointed. And thank you. Thank you, Usha, for your hanging lights. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Storm, for your team bracelets. 4 of them to be exact. Hari Om Tat Sat. Gregor, you share that chanting could be a segment of the stream before or after, perhaps. I like that idea, Gregor. I really do. And thank you, 31 planes of existence, for your love, you. Jai Sita Ram. Thank you, Usha, for your trio of roses. And Giuliano, thank you for your cloud bread, rose, ice cream cone, TikTok, and a GG. Radhe Radhe. And we could all chant together, says Sadie. That's a great idea. Yeah, why don't we give it a go at the end of the stream? A couple of nomads you had asked, how would you suggest dealing with stillness when you're used to being on the go? Stillness is not the nature of the world, nor of the body, or even of the mind. Finding stillness, therefore, is not something we do on any of these levels. One person thinks finding stillness means I have to make my house still. I have to put my cats outside so they don't disturb my stillness. I have to make sure that the dishwasher isn't running so it doesn't disturb my stillness. I have to make sure that everyone in my house is silent so they don't disturb my stillness. This person ends up driving themselves mad because they can't control the world in this way. The world, its nature is to be in movement. Movement is the quality of the world. Another person, they say, it's not the world I have to make still, it's my body. Okay, let me sit cross-legged, back straight, hands on my lap. My back is hurting. Maybe if I just stretch a little. My tongue is moving around my mouth. I feel my tummy hurt. Ooh, something's moving down there. Can feel that. No matter how hard you try to make your body still, you'll drive yourself crazy just the same. A third person, they say, no, it's not my duty to make the world still, or my body, it's my duty to make the mind still. Okay. Every thought that arises, I'll try to squash. No, don't want that thought. No, that thought. I don't want that thought either. So many thoughts, no imaginations, no memories, no feelings, just quiet. They're trying so hard to make their mind quiet that the very voice in their mind telling all the parts to be quiet is so loud. So this person drives themselves crazy as well. Stillness must be found in what you are beyond these three things. Like how when watching a movie, all you have to do is become aware of the movie screen to find the stillness. Even if everyone around you is talking, you're at the climax of the movie screen, now that has been still the whole time. It always has been. It is, and always will be. Abiding in this awareness, with no illusion of person, you will be instantly free and at peace. And that is right, SHJ. I do go live every day. Radhe. Well said, Tatvamasi. The mind pretends to be the orchestrator quieting itself, right? The mind's yelling at the top of its lungs, "Be quiet!" Dansuela, you ask, is it Jai Sita Ram or Jai Shri Ram? And why do I see both at times? What's the difference? It is most commonly Jai Shri Ram. Shri is just an honorific for Ram. However, Sita, being the divine feminine counterpart of the divine masculine Rama, I feel like it is best to put Sita in front of Rama. That way we are honoring both the divine feminine and masculine at the same time. Jai Sita Ram. But many people say Jai Shri Ram, just honoring Rama, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. Just a personal choice. That's it. And thank you, Tatvamasi, for your ginger man and 3 GGs a minute ago. Radhe. And thank you, Dab Darker, for your heart meat. Hari Om Tat Sat. And couple of nomads, thank you for your rose. El Rey, you had asked, do we get to remember this experience on the next one? We remember to the extent that we don't make a big fuss out of the transition. See, some people, when they are going through a separation with a loved one, they still have a chance to return to that relationship in the future. It's just that we make a fuss out of the momentary transition, that it turns from a temporary separation to a permanent one. We all are guilty of it to some extent. On the way out the door, we smash things, either physically or metaphorically. And now we've sealed the deal. No way we're returning. Likewise, great yogis have the ability to recollect their past lives, because on their way out the door of that one life, they don't start smashing things and really sever themselves off from it. With a nice smooth transition, we are allowed back into our memories. If not, then we get angry about it. And it's our own attachments which ultimately shake everything that's on the surface down to nothing but subtle impressions remaining. And thank you, this is my show. For the dancing beaver in the sun. Sorry, a dancing beaver in sunglasses. Well, I assume he's wearing sunglasses, as he is in the sun too. Thank you. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Jana, for your rose too. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Jen Singh, for your paper crane. Goblin Brain, you ask, how do you suggest I introduce myself to Buddhism? I would listen to the story of the Buddha. Naturally, we are people-centric people. We connect first with what resonates with us, and it's the story of the Buddha which will capture your attention first of all. I highly recommend the movie Thus Have I Heard. It's 5 hours long, pretty long for a movie, but it's like an animated Disney movie, and it's free, and the entire 5-hour movie is on YouTube with English subtitles. My goodness, I couldn't get enough of that. I'd watch a little bit before going to bed every night, watching my Buddhist Disney movie. And by the time it ended, I was so sad because I loved this form of information. "31 Planes of Existence." You were inquiring about the sound of Hari Om Tat Sat. Yes, good attempt. The first word is Hari, H-A-R-I. You got the next two words, Om and Tat. And the last word is Sat, S-A-T. Om, of course, we could spend a lifetime discussing the intricacies of. Tat and Sat as well. They are also auspicious syllables. And many lines in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, begin with Hari Om Tat Sat. It is a very powerful mantra. It's very difficult to translate literally, because each syllable means so much. Tat, however, is actually where we get the English word that. So it means that, but like a capital T, that. The thing. Like the that is used in the Bible, where God proclaims to Moses, I am that I am. That kind of that. Sat is a complementary word to that. Maybe you could think of it as like this or such. It also just references something, and a very profound something. Sat also is short for Satya, meaning truth. Hari refers to Krishna, but his feminine aspect in particular. So Hari Om Tat Sat kind of means something like the feminine potency of God, cosmic vibration, that is true, that is such. And thank you, Erica, for your heartmeet and for your quintet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Babiso, for your finger heart. SHJ, you ask, Yam, are you a vegan or vegetarian? I am an inspiring how do I phrase this grammatically? I am aspiring towards a Sattvic diet. In yoga, there is a particular way of eating. There's a particular way of doing everything. There's a yoga of your actions called karma yoga, a yoga of how to conduct yourself called yama yoga, a yoga of breathing properly called pranayama yoga, a yoga of meditation called dhyana yoga, a yoga of posture called asana yoga, a yoga of devotion called bhakti yoga. There's a yoga of knowledge called jnana yoga. You get the picture. There's a yoga for everything. And the yoga for our diet is called a Sattvic diet. It is considered that all foods, and actually all things in material existence, have trace amounts of three elements, three gunas. Sattva guna, Raja guna, and Tamo guna. These are the modes of ignorance, tamas, passion, rajas, and purity, sattva. According to this model, everything from people can be acting in either of the three gunas, our thoughts can be of either of the three gunas, and our food that we eat can be of any of the three gunas. Food that is tamasic puts you to sleep. You eat a meal that's tamasic, you get angry after. You don't even know what it is. These are excessively burnt foods. These are foods that are really high in fat and protein, animal protein. You eat a big steak and it's like, no one talk to me. I'm gonna go in a food coma. Rajasic foods, these are foods that kind of hype you up. Like you drink tea or coffee. You eat onion or garlic. You eat spicy food. You eat these foods and it's like, go, 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 go. You're suddenly very passionate. But the yogi is one who strives for sattvic foods. Sattvic foods are very simple. Like fruit, like nuts. Maybe a glass of milk if the cow has had proper rituals, ensuring that it is respected. So, calling a sattvic diet maybe lacto-vegetarian dismisses the spiritual component of it, because it's not a decision made on the premise of a moral choice. It's a decision made on the premise of spiritual progress, about how the chemicals in the foods that we eat affect our mind. The yogi is one who strives for sattvic thoughts, and the biggest influence of our thoughts is, interestingly enough, the food that we eat. So if you want to change your thoughts, try seeing how the foods that you eat during the day change the way you think. If you just eat granola bars, some fruit, good vegetables, don't over-season your food, your mind will be so clear. So there is a practical benefit, spiritually, to having a sattvic diet. And I'm not all the way there yet. It's very difficult to transition to it because, especially in our culture, we have trained our body to require certain nutrients from our culture. But over the course of a few years, I've been gradually transitioning to a more sattvic diet, and I can say that my mind is certainly a lot more clear. And thank you, Linda, for your 23 roses that you sent a few minutes ago. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Sarah Lynn, for your pair of roses and a heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Erica, for another disco love. Jai Sita Ram. And Liz, thank you for your rosa too. And thank you, Gaia. Jenna, you were wondering why I deleted my videos, if you don't mind me asking. I don't mind at all, and if you want a full answer, I can direct you to the link tree in my bio where I have a new frequently asked questions page, and so that can give you some insight into some of the, most commonly asked things that come my way. And there's a whole section on why I decided to step away from making videos and take them down. But to give you a quick summary, I discovered better ways for me to utilize the internet in my spiritual pursuits. And thank you, everyone, for being here. I want to extend my gratitude for your presence. A lovely Sangha, as always. Jorts, you had asked, what is my spiritual pursuit? Well, for a while I was interested in enlightenment. I thought, that's it. The ultimate endeavor of human life, to be free from suffering. And in the background of my videos, I was suffering a lot. I went to the hospital a few times because my anxiety attacks didn't go away. And I thought for sure something was wrong with me physically. And so I begged all my doctors to run all the tests. So they obliged, because I live in Canada. And they hooked me up to an ECG, drew my blood, felt around in my stomach, had me pee in a cup, all the classic tests. Finally, after several hours, the doctor came into my room for the results. And they said, well, I have good news and I have bad news. I said, okay. Lay it on me, doc. Doctor said, we can't find anything wrong with you. I said, okay, and the good news? He said, that is the good news. I said, okay, then what's the bad news? That's also the bad news. So I walked away from that hospital thinking, my goodness, whatever I have, it doesn't even show up on any test. I'm screwed. But after some rationalizing, I had to conclude it's more likely that I just have anxiety. And that's a good thing, because that's something I can work on. If it's a mysterious illness that doesn't show up on the tests, then what else can I do but be anxious? But if it's anxiety, then I might as well put my best effort into attending to that. And in the midst of that anxiety, I did have a change in perspective concerning my spiritual pursuit. At some point in the suffering, it started to become a good thing that I was experiencing this challenge. Whereas before, I saw this suffering as something that held me back. Now you could say that the suffering was giving me something to work on, work towards. And that change in perspective allowed me to see suffering from a different angle. That it's not necessarily something to minimize. It can be a blessing in and of itself. And that thought, compounded on itself, I started to actively seek discomfort in places where I used to seek pleasure instead. I thought, screw it, I'm gonna have a cold shower, even though I want a nice warm shower. I'm not gonna wear my shoes outside today. I'm not gonna ask my mom to turn the temperature down in the car even though I'm sweating. Suddenly, I started to get the happy chemicals from denying pleasures instead of consuming them. So my spiritual pursuit now is not about minimizing pain, but maximizing the fullness in which I experience every moment and all the sensations that come with it. Thank you, Tattvamasi, for your 6 roses you sent a few minutes ago. Radhe, oh Radhe, and Sacred Serenity. Thank you for your octet of cheer you ups. And 8 roses too. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Erica, for your quintet of roses. And this is my show. Thank you for your star. "31 planes of existence." You ask, what do you think was the core singular fear causing your anxiety? It's the same fear that manifests itself in every way, I suppose. It's the fear of death, really. The fear that all of this could be taken away suddenly. The next question that arises then is, if I can't do anything about that possibility, how can I at least live without that fear limiting me? So the fear transformed into an inadequacy of living to the fullest of my potential. And then that's where the realization came that in order to live life to my fullest, I must see doing things that make me uncomfortable as what allows me to be vibrant in all ways. And the only way to get better at doing that is to chip away at the old block. Start with little things. For me, in my anxiety, the first thing wasn't anything big. It was just going outside of my house and walking up to a cashier and purchasing something. The agoraphobia was big. I wasn't afraid of them necessarily. I was afraid of just being anxious around people. So challenging yourself with small things, I can attest to, is a great way to start pulling yourself from that fear of death. When it's all about how we can live life to the fullest extent, then it's imperative that we challenge the things that we feel like we don't want to do. And thank you, Ragnhildur, for your rose. And Corn Trip, thank you for your tiny. Yippee! And thank you, France, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. And that's a great observation, Tattvamasi. Changing your ways definitely gets you to be present in the moment, because it's new, not repeated. I like that. That's profound. As you do it more, the more involved you get. Very practical insight, that is. Thank you. Aquarius lady, you ask, Yam, when you meet people first time, do you ever wonder if they were window lickers on a short bus? No. Because I know who the window lickers are. It's me. I've been the one riding all the buses in the world and licking all the windows. Nah, I'm just kidding. Or am I? Johansson, or Johansson, you ask, do I still like 12-tone equal temperament? Do I still like it? I am not sure I've been on the record saying that I had liked it before. I don't have any strong feelings towards it. I believe that mathematically Pythagoras was up to something. So I'm on team Pythagorean tuning. And thank you, Adam, for your rose. Radhe. Veronica, you ask, can you please give an advice on how to deal with an alcoholic person in a family? In my experience, alcoholics are very beautiful people when they can be, but their mind is so expansive that they're actually scared of themselves. And so the only way to self-medicate, to their knowledge, is by numbing their own ability, their own mental abilities. Alcoholics are often the greatest thinkers, but they think too hard about everything. I really do recommend any spiritual practice for an alcoholic, even if it's something so simple like Stoicism or Buddhism. You don't have to go into any mumbo-jumbo territory. Anything that can open yourself up to feeling those feelings, thinking those thoughts, without needing to mask that. When you allow all these sensations that arise in yourself to be, without trying to suppress them, you don't have to take on the weight of the world, even though you're sensitive to it. I know that some people are so perceptive of the suffering that exists in the world that they feel the pain of everyone around them, and in order to manage that, they self-medicate. But there is a way to feel that pain and allow it to be there. It doesn't make you a monster that you're not doing anything about it, because you are doing something about it just by holding space for that suffering. You know, cry, write music, get it out of you, externalize it. But whatever you do, know that suppressing it is only going to make it arise with greater intensity later. And thank you, John Simon, for your TGIF. Radhe Radhe. Mothering addiction. You share that you're a people pleaser to the point of causing yourself to suffer. You always have been. Well, your username certainly checks out. That's for sure. Sometimes the trademark of a good mother is not necessarily one that takes on all the problems of those who depend upon you, but allow them just enough challenges so that they grow themselves as a person. The classic example, for example, is a mother who kicks her birds out of her nest. What some eagles do is that they make nests high up on a cliffside, very jagged terrain. And in that terrain, they pad their nests with nice soft stuff. They even pluck feathers out of their own skin in order to make their nest nice and cozy for their younglings. And so the babies, they grow up without any adversity. Life's good, just chilling in this nice soft warm nest, waiting for mommy to come back with the food. But as the chicks grow, the mother eagle, she starts pulling away the softness of the nest, and it starts to become more and more prickly. Adjusting to this adversity, the bird starts spending more time outside the nest. But outside the nest isn't all soft either. In order to go anywhere nice, they have to learn to fly. But they're not going to fly on their own. They need that push. They need their mother to even though it breaks the mother's heart. Push them into this fall so that they have no choice but to flap their wings and discover that they can fly on their own. Then they become truly independent, and the mother has succeeded. Likewise, people pleasers may think that they are doing it for the benefit of those around them by taking on all of their problems. But you may actually be limiting the ability for them to grow and become independent. And that is a virtue you can give them by allowing them to solve their own problems. And thank you, Meredith, for your finger heart, and Rosa. Radhe, Radhe. I'm happy that you enjoyed my FAQ Poots. It's a good name. And you really enjoyed logic in college too. And yes, rendered paths to certain personal views. How delightful is that? I'm happy to relate with you in your experience. Well, you're very welcome, Mothering. I'm very grateful that you are here in this Sangha. Usha, you ask, what to do if your adult baby has severe autoimmune, desire-changing personalities due to many medications? See them for who they are beyond that which changes. Know that there is not one way to express the self, but innumerable facets to explore. They may be exploring different facets, but a good mother will be able to see the unity amidst all various expressions. Aquarius lady, you share that you got new zoo animals in. Crocodile skinks, so crocodile skins, tomato frogs, and lizards. Tomato frog, that sounds... Is it a vegetable or a fruit? It's neither, it's an animal. It's a bad joke. That's very exciting. Many different modes of expression of life there as well, and I'm sure in each of those forms are new opportunities for caring and service, adjusting to the needs of those in your care. And thank you, young savage. You love my sense of humor. I'm glad someone does. Bartender, you share that you have 2 job offers and you don't know how to tell the first one you are not going to continue. Honesty means simply expressing how you feel without expectation to be understood. You could say, I had reached out to different companies at the same time that you had offered me this position, and if it weren't for the other positions, perhaps I would be joining. Nonetheless, I'm very grateful to have many opportunities in my life right now, And I thank you for extending one of those to me. The choice I have made is not in any kind of disrespect to what you have offered. And I hope that if the time arises again, maybe we could work together in the future. Michelle, you share that you love the way I laugh at myself. You have to. If you take yourself too seriously, it's difficult to sleep at night. Bartender, you share that you're struggling with being heard without being understood. Yeah. In Vedanta, the study of the Vedas, they describe understanding in 3 levels. There's the Shravana, that's just the being heard. Anyone with an ear can do that. But sometimes things go in one ear and right out the other. A person could be looking at you dead in the eyes and say something to you, and you go, "What?" You heard it, but you didn't process it. So the next stage of understanding above Shravana is Manana, and that's it translates to something like debate, but you can consider it like chewing on the idea, thinking about it, tossing it around the various parts of yourself. And then there's the nididhyasana, the supplementary practicality of the understanding. And we can't do that for others. We can't even force them to listen. But as long as we offer them what we feel they deserve to know, then as long as you have done your best, that is all you need to do. Hello, Billy. Bartender, you share that you struggle with over-explaining. Just the opposite. Yes, that is a tricky thing. I remember in grade 8, my middle school teacher did a very interesting experiment where we tried to take a sentence from our textbook and just pick 3 words that were the most important of that sentence, and then try to make a more compact sentence just with those 3 words. And I remember one of the sentences our class agreed on, that the 3 words were life, imbue, and spirit. And so she asked the class if anyone wanted to make an attempt at making those 3 words into a sentence with as few extra words as possible. So I raised my hand, and she called on me, and I said, "Spirituality imbues life." No extra words at all. And she hated it. She took one look at me and said, "No." But I never forgot that moment. It can be a beautiful skill to practice, taking something big and trying to fit it within something small. Great sages do this in the form of spiritual scriptures, where they take all their life experience and put it into one mantra. We have a heritage of doing this in the West as well. We just call them sayings. Cross that bridge when you get there. Kill two birds with one stone. Sayings survive through the shifting sands of time in their ability to condense so much experience into what is effectively a seed of wisdom. If you nurture that seed and keep caring for it, it'll grow and blossom, and eventually it might return that in the form of something sweet. So I would recommend the practice of condensation, that is, to condense the key points into as minimal of a form as possible. Naturally, this will go against our feminine nature, which wants to expand and be as complete as possible in every dimension. But the masculine principle is just the complement of this, trying to be concise. So get in touch with your divine masculinity, which exists in everyone. Leautu, you ask, how do you reconcile divine omnipotence with human free will? It's very simple. Is that we are a portion of the divine, and so we have been allotted with a portion of omnipotence. Of course, a portion of omnipotence is no longer omni. We have a potency, a Shakti of this body and mind. We are given dominion over the kingdom of this flesh and bone. But that's it. Lewis, you ask, should I go buy gold bars, wise one? You are asking, will the price of gold rise or decrease? Richer is not he who purchases gold at a low price, waiting to sell on high, than he who purchases lead, but knows the alchemy to turn poison into treasure. So invest in that alchemical process of turning pain into pleasure, poison into amrita, the elixir of life. I love that quote, Laura, from yourself. I'm just my own seedling. You're just your own seedling. That's very cute. Milson, you ask, did we already die? Every moment. Thank you, Michelle, for your 7 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Good night, 31 planes of existence. And Leautu, you ask, do you believe there's beauty in the struggle? What would we be without our struggles to shape us? Well said. I agree. The beauty is there, but it's our choice to look for it Bartender, you ask me, what do I do when I'm genuinely angry? Well, what do you do when you're genuinely angry? What do? We sit with it. And if it's better to be unacting, refrain yourself. If no matter how long you sit with it, something still needs to be done, then never be attached to inaction, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Action is not just for the worldly. Even a spiritual master must act. The difference is that to the spiritually inclined, it is their duty to perform actions without entitlement to a preferred outcome. What does that mean? It means we do our best, regardless of if we win or lose. In both victory and defeat, we remain the same, saying to ourselves, I tried my best. What defines you is not the result of your action. And this is not merely a philosophical point. No matter who you are, at some point in your life, you will have done your best and still end up empty-handed at something. Like in school, we've all gotten that one bad grade, even though we put in our best effort. Therefore, it's imperative that we do not define our sense of self-worth by the things that are ultimately out of our control, by the outcomes of our actions. Yes, the quality of our actions can affect the quality of the outcome, but it isn't guaranteed. So if you want true guaranteed fulfillment, then it's our best effort that really matters, because that you have 100% control over. Good night, Kelly. Peace and blessings to you. And thank you, Christelle, for your heartmeet and quartet of disco loves. Radhe, oh Radhe. And thank you, MJ, for your hand hearts. Hari Om Tat Sat. Nicole, you share that my hair looks darker today. Did you dye it? It looks nice either way. Well, thank you, Nicole. But, no, although I did mess with some of the settings on my camera, I think the contrast is a little increased now. Perhaps that explains it. Bartender, you ask, do I eat meat? I've eaten a lot of meat in my life, that's for sure. There was a time where I think I would eat a steak after I got home from work every day, and it tasted delicious. However, the strangest thing has happened as I have become more spiritually open-minded. My body started to not crave it anymore. That the vegetarian options at a restaurant just seemed more appealing. I know that if I had the hamburger, it would be a good experience. But it didn't feel necessary anymore. It's not like I made some choice where I woke up one day and I said, okay, that's it. I'm done with meat. And this is the reason why. There was no reason. There was no choice. It was just a gradual shift over time. Thank you for asking, Dylan. My night has been going well. Yamalam. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you for asking, Marlon. I am doing well. Thank you. And thank you for your little crown, Crystal. And Sid, thank you for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Bartender, you ask, have I read the book that correlates diet to blood type? No, but that reminds me of a friend of mine who was really big about his eating choices, and he was in this accident that I was involved with, or I witnessed, and actually he ended up cutting himself and he was bleeding, and while the paramedics were arriving, he was, this is what I loved about him, is that even in that moment, he was just saying over and over again, be positive, be positive. And here I was, trying to help him, and he was telling me to be positive. Yeah, I really do miss that guy. That's a blood type joke, if anyone is wondering. And thank you, Billy, for your friendship necklace, for your rosa, your balloons, and tiny. Yippee! And thank you, Sid, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And France, thank you for another rose. And thank you, BG, for your rose too. Jai Sita Ram. James, you ask, what if we are brain cells in a big brain, and that's why we think the universe looks infinite? I like that. The fractal universe. I remember reading through a science textbook that my dad would read before I learned how to read, so I would just look at the pictures. And one of the diagrams in that textbook was a picture of a human brain, or I guess a computer model of the neurons, as well as the big cosmic filaments that are comprised of galaxy superclusters. And they looked very similar. I remember asking my dad, because I can't read the label, what is this? Oh, that's the universe. Oh, it looks very similar to that. What's that? Oh, that's the brain. You're telling me the universe and the brain, they look similar. Yes. It's very interesting to think about. And thank you, Michelle, for your heart me and your team bracelet. Radhe, Radhe. And good evening to you, Elysium. Blessings to you as well. Thank you. 'Cause it's Maya, says Tatvamasi. You are right. Mira, you add to it that the face of the bee looks similar to the brain. Oh, very interesting. I've never noticed that. But now you've got me thinking. That's exciting. Milson, you ask, which God do you worship? I worship the God within you. Petit Elfie, you ask, how do you define yourself? The secret to being happy is that you don't let any word or set of words define who you are. Then you are truly free. Goblin Z, you ask, so. What is Yams planning for 40-year-old you? 40-year-old me? My goodness. When tomorrow is not guaranteed, I don't even know what I'm going to eat for dinner tonight. Let alone 20 years from now. All I know is that I strive to be humbler, kinder, more honest. Diego, you ask, can I get some wisdom? Can I get wisdom? You are asking for it. You are assuming that you don't already have it, that it exists separate from you, and that you must go and get it, or have it come to you. But the difference between wisdom and knowledge is just that. You have to go out and get knowledge, but wisdom is always there. It is just like observing the reflection of the sun in a pond covered by algae. You may say that the sunlight is not there, but that's only because we have yet to part the algae, which is preventing us from seeing that reflection of light. Likewise, all that you need to know is already inside you. What you need to part is also inside you. So wisdom is not a practice of getting anything new, as it is parting the old and seeing the ever new within you. And thank you, Skippy on a bad day, for your balloons. Radhe, Radhe. Wake up and twinkle. Thank you for your heart, me too. Martin, babe, you say, you are wise, young man. Teach me to be a better person. Well, it's good that you correlate wisdom with being a better person, because at the end of the day, what good is philosophizing about the universe if we're still not kind to those around us? So how can we be more kind? We can be kinder by recognizing that the source of existence, whatever that infinitude was or is, it has manifested itself in all this resplendent glory, including everyone in your life. Recognizing that to be the case, how would we not bow down to the divinity before you, in those that you love especially, taking care of them even if it means just listening to them, knowing them to be an expression of that source, you would give your full attention. Is that Skywalker? Thank you, Heartbeat Syndrome. Much love back to you. And that's quite alright, Lily. You are certainly never expected to be here, let alone on time. You helped your mom with dinner, and you made spicy yam fries. How lovely is that? Thought you'd share, since I like yams. Well, I cannot condone cannibalism, since I am a yam. But I have heard, by a friend of course, that they are a delicious meal. And even more delicious than that is your ability to serve your mother. Take care. And I hope that experience was fruitful, as I'm sure it is. Always a good reason to not be here is to be doing something with or for your mom. Ah, I see. Bartender, you clarify. I'm a sweet yam, not a spicy one. It's different. That makes more sense. Thank you, Joe. Joe Yogi. I like your name. Thank you for your 33 DGIFs, 11 dick dogs, and 11 roses. Radhe Radhe. Thank you for your blessings. I hope to refract them like a prism and share them with all of you here. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for your subscription. You know I am elated to have you here and be in service of you. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Echo Leaf, for your reminder to be mindful. Tattvamasi, you ask if I can talk more about Paramahansa Yogananda and his relation to the Divine Mother. I recall a question from his youth, which is told near the start of the book, Autobiography of a Yogi, by Paramahansa Yogananda, that there was a festival happening in his city, and him and his sister were out on the patio or balcony, and the parade was going by, and him and his sister were discussing about the nature of how all these people just believe in silly things that they might not know is real or not. Very wise children they were. And Yogananda said, "What are you talking about, sister? The Divine Mother is very real. If I just ask for one of those balloons, our mother will give them to me." And she said, "Yeah, right." He said, "Okay." And he started praying. And as he prayed, one of the balloons from the parade took off away from the hand of the parader and started drifting in the wind towards Yogananda. When he opened his eyes, he grabbed it. "Look at that, sis. I told you so." She said, "I don't believe it. That's just a coincidence." "Alright, I'll do it again." He went into meditation. "Oh, Mother, may you please provide for my sister a display of how faith alone can do miraculous things." Just like that, another balloon escaped the hand of the parader, drifted its way perfectly. Yogananda opened his eyes and snatched it too. His sister had to concede, "All right, but you're clearly more connected to her than I am. She'd never do that for me." But all you have to do is trust that the Divine Mother will take care of you. If you don't believe in her, then of course she's not going to move mountains for you. And thank you, Lily, for your trio of tiny tinies. Yippee! And for your heart me. Radhe Radhe. And Tatvam Asi, thank you for your quintet of roses. Jai Sita Rama. And thank you, Divine Love, for your heart me and rose. Radhe Radhe. Linda, you asked, how long have you been studying the Vedas, and have you always been interested in spirituality? I think I became aware of the Vedas in this life around the time I started university, after I had a bit of a spiritual awakening studying mathematics and logic. I wanted to know if ancient scriptures described the realization I had in their own words. And of course, naturally, the nature of truth being omnipresent means that it arises again and again throughout time and space. I found that the Hebrew Bible, the Tao Te Ching, both contained possibilities for truth that I felt very connected with in my experience during that time. And naturally I wondered what the Bible of Hinduism was, and so I learned that the equivalent is called the Vedas, which people still figure out how to date correctly and disagree about it. Some say it's 5,000, some say it's 12,000, some say they're eternal. I don't actually know how to read Sanskrit, especially Vedic Sanskrit. That's a tough cookie, that's for sure. But I would love to have that ability. Fortunately, however, although it may not be in our ability to read Vedic Sanskrit, we don't have to. For example, the essence of the Vedas are distilled through the Upanishads, which are then distilled in another layer of text called the Brahma Sutras, and they got distilled into various legends called Puranas, and then they got distilled into epics such as the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. And it is from there that the common folk, such as us, may read the essence of the Vedas. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is just a part of one of those epics, the Mahabharata. And you don't have to have any qualification to read the Bhagavad Gita. You can crack it open and start reading. The turbulent senses, O Kaunteya, do forcibly carry away the consciousness of one of discriminating intellect, even while they are striving diligently to control those senses. Here, it seems Krishna is saying, in very plain words, that even a very intelligent person struggles to control how their consciousness gets pulled away through cravings of the senses. It's not locked away in some Vedic mantra. It's right there, just ready for us to open So I spent more time studying scriptures such as that than the Vedas themselves. Now, your second question was, how long have I been spiritually inclined? And that's not an easy question to answer. I mean, how long have you been interested in life? We've always been interested in life. We just look for answers in places that may be different than others. And I suppose I started looking for answers in what you might call spiritual places within the last 6 years. 7 years. Thank you, Joe Yogi, for another 4 balloons and a quartet of cloud breads. Radhe, Radhe. Have I been eating cornbread? I actually did eat cornbread the other day. I was thinking about our guest, who goes by the name of cornbread. It was quite delicious, if not very crumbly. But I suppose the best of things slip through our hands like grains of sand. And thank you, DJ, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for your pair of finger hearts a few minutes ago. Yes, I hope our guest by the name of Cornbread was not living in said cornbread that I consumed. Otherwise, you will be having a very muffled listening of our Sangha through the walls of my stomach. Thank you, Lex, for your ice cream cone. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Billy, for your flowers. Hari Om Tat Sat. Gregor, you ask in clarity, so the Mahabharata is inside the Vedas. We consider the epic of the Mahabharata to be a Vedic text in that it was inspired by the Vedas. Sometimes it's even called the fifth Veda. But you can't literally crack open the Vedas and find the Mahabharata. For one, the Mahabharata is much longer than the Vedas. It is 10 times longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey combined. By some metrics, you could say it's the longest story ever told. It could not fit. But such is the nature of the Vedas, in that they contain such sublime truths that it takes an epic that size in order to reconstruct the truths that went into them. But the essence of the Vedas is found in the Mahabharata, especially the Bhagavad Gita, which is quite clearly the most famous part of it. It is said that if all the scriptures in the world were to suddenly vanish overnight, it's the Bhagavad Gita that would allow us to reconstruct all of the truth in our lost scriptures. And thank you, Marlon. If you are finding any positivity in our Sangha, it is not just the work of myself. Thanks to wonderful people like yourself, we are able to cultivate such a space for everyone. And I'm happy that you have found some words of truth in some of the books we have been reading in our Sangha, Arthur. Child of reason, you share a fun fact. Saying Gita repeatedly turns into Tagi, which means renunciation. How fun is that? That's exciting. Gita, 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 Gita. I see that. I hear it, I should say. And Gregor, you add that you have heard that the Bhagavad Gita is sometimes referred to as the Hindu Bible. Yes, indeed. Every Hindu certainly has a copy of it. That's for sure. Hello, dead girl. Happy to have you here. And hello, artist Tam. We do have many cool TikTok names among the Yamily. It's a good portmanteau of yam and family. I can respect a good portmanteau, although I certainly take ownership of none of you. How am I doing? Asks Dead Girl. I am feeling confident and blissful and excited. Thank you. How are you? Now I actually forgot to read a section from the pocket Pema Chodron today. So why don't we do that? Here we open to my favorite number, 37, at the beginning and at the end. It's a nice short one. In the morning when you wake up, reflect on the day ahead and aspire to use it to keep a wide open heart and mind. At the end of the day, before going to sleep, think over what you've done. If you fulfilled your aspiration, even once, rejoice in that. If you went against your aspiration, rejoice that you are able to see what you did and are no longer living in ignorance. This way, you will be inspired to go forward with increasing clarity, confidence, and compassion. And I am happy that you are still here, dead girl, and that you are able to see the potential. Sometimes when we see the potential within ourselves, we become attached to that. Seeing the potential in ourselves, now that's a blessing, but that doesn't mean that we are any less than our best now. Now, Billy, you ask, would I be willing to take a picture of that reading and post it? Yes, I would. And to remind myself of that, There, I'll put a scrunchie. I'll put a scrunchie around that page, and then after I finish this live, I can go, why is there a scrunchie in my pocket Pema Chodron? Oh yeah, that's right. Billy had asked me to take a picture of that page. Arthur, you share that sometimes seeing your potential scares you. It can be overwhelming to see all the possibility and then compare that to what we are doing now. And then we feel, oh boy. We think about how that potential could have been manifested already if we just had made different decisions in the past. And then we get trapped in the spiral. Our best version of ourselves is not the one we see for ourselves. It's in the way there. It's the becoming that is best. And as long as you are putting your effort into that becoming now, then you are already your best. Did I thank you, Billy, for your flowers a few minutes ago? I will thank you again anyway. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Lily, for your 3 tiny dinies and 4 roses. If I already yippied, I will happily do another. Yippee! And thank you, Lex, for your quartet of roses and a rosa. Radhe, Radhe. I already thanked you. It is embarrassing when I thank twice, in my opinion. I feel like I could be better at remembering when these gifts were sent. But in my credit, the way they are displayed on my screen aren't that intuitive. I hope you understand. And thank you, Womb Wound Wisdom. That's a tough thing to say. Womb Wound Wisdom. But it's a beautiful username. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Tattvam Asi, for your pair of roses, your pair of GGs, ice cream cones, and TikToks. Jai Sita Ram. Thank you, Jacob. May your sleep be restful and dream meaningful whenever you get there. And thank you for your 6 roses and a finger heart. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Dead Girl, for your 12 friendship necklaces. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dylan, you asked, do you have any advice on how to stay loving facing adversity? Know that through adversity, we become even stronger lovers. The best love comes from those who have experienced the highs and lows of life, because we know it means something. We know that despite the difficulties they have experienced, their love is proof that it's still worth it to love. And that even though they might have experienced the worst of humanity, there's something still lovable in you. So in that light, I say that your adversity gives your love authenticity. And thank you, Jacob, for a snowboard too. Jai Sita Rama and Linda, thank you for your 33 roses. Radhe Radhe. Yes, Marlon, what is your question? Have a good night, Saturnus. And thank you, Luis, for your pair of roses. Jai Sita Rama. Dead girl, you asked, may I ask what part of the world you're in? I'm on the west coast of Canada. I was going to say a little island, but it's actually pretty big, called Vancouver Island. Good night, Michelle. Thank you, dead girl, for another friendship necklace too. Radhe Radhe. Michelle, thank you for another pair of roses. Well, you have heard of Vancouver Island. That's nice. I am waiting for Marlon's question. Has it slipped through the cracks? I don't think so yet. Lewis, you ask, why is it so hard to say the truth? I'm a people pleaser. You have such a high awareness that you know that sometimes it hurts to hear the truth, and you don't want to hurt others due to your empathy. Alright, Marlon, you ask, what are your thoughts on someone who is so interested in slasher-like shows? I know that it's very fascinating to experience that side of humanity. I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with partaking in that kind of entertainment, because just like Mother Kali, who is an expression of all things gross and taboo, there is a beauty in that. And if we can hold space for that part of life too, then that allows us to have a firmer resolve when similar kinds of feelings arise within our life in different ways. Of course, not everyone is going to experience a slasher movie like happening before our eyes, but sometimes violence does happen. And if we can understand that it is also a part of life that people express themselves in this way, we might not necessarily agree with it, but we can hold space for it so that we don't run away from it and hide from it, that we attend to it and be in service of those who need it. And I like the way that you put it, dead girl. There is always darkness in beauty. Without darkness, you'd never see the stars. I love that. Thank you, Louise, for another 9 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Where is Sandy? Asks G to infinity. It's a good question. He appeared in my room, started meowing to go out, and then he disappeared. I think his middle name is Houdini. We should call him Sandini. Alright, I can't help but notice that we've been streaming for 3 hours now, and so I think it's a good time to start wrapping things up. But before we go, I would love to open the floor for a question of the day today, which I think you'll enjoy. My question today is, what's better than small talk? Do let me know. What do you really want to talk about? Or maybe it's not anything at all. Something different entirely. Silence, says Gravity Bends. Beautiful answer. Winning the lottery, says Teddy the Grump. Yo, if I could have a choice between winning the lottery and small talk, I think, yeah. Diving deep, says KB. Of course, we love a good deep convo. Thank you, MJ, for your 21 roses, by the way. Radhe, Radhe. Expansive talk, says Mischief. Even smaller talk, says Dylan. I love that answer. What's better than small talk? Even smaller talk. It reminds me of one of the first lines from the Tao Te Ching, that whether one sees to the core of life or passionately sees the surface, wonder names them both. Everything, says Billy. Real talk, says Lex. I like that answer too. What's better than small talk? Real talk. Let's talk about connecting with each other, says Lewis. That's beautiful. Marcy says, coming over and looking at you like this. I'm not sure if I can mimic the pleading eye emoji. It's like the... something like that. It does say a lot, doesn't it? Long talk, says MJ. I like that. A different description of size. If not small, long. Creation and creativity, says Faithful Being. Nice to have you here, by the way. Watching your child play, says Ellie's Divine Gateway. And Arthur, I love the way you challenge the premise. Small talk is often an awesome way to move to deeper conversations. Right you are, my friend. Laughter, says Bobby Sue. I like that. Don Suela says, I like a long, awkward, pregnant pause. What a great description. Yeah. Dead girl, you say connections with animals and animal bonds. What I love about animals is that We don't have the luxury to communicate in words. So what we do through actions speaks louder than our words. Quite literally, and especially in this case. Listening to the breeze, says Cat Lady. Very poetic. Talking with eyes, says Kristen. It is a power that not everyone has, and my respect to those with that ability. Listening to the natural world, says Lewis as well. And the sounds of nature, very revealing. Harriet, you say napping with friends is so peaceful. You guys should try it. Thank you for your recommendation. I like that. Alright, thank you. Thank you, Carol, for your trio of roses. And Belladonna, thank you for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And hello, Knees World. And Rihanna, thank you for your heart, me too. Hari Om Tat Sat. Eye contact do be tough sometimes. Yeah, that's for sure. Non-verbal communication, says Cindy. I like that answer too. And Lily, you share a deep talk that provides insight. I love having deep talks about existence. Me too. Thank you everyone for attending to my question of the day. We got many lovely responses. Sounds like there are lots of ways to express ourselves beyond little words. Thank you, Shakira, for your rose. And thank you, Dead Girl, for your 7 roses. Hari Om Tat Sat. And Louise, thank you for 15 roses too. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Dead Girl. All my best wishes back to you. Before we end today's Sangha, let us read from a great spiritual master, Ramana Maharshi, in this book, his spiritual teachings. We are in chapter 1, discussing the nature of who am I. We previously ended on the question of if reading books was useful. And to paraphrase, he said, they can be useful so long as they direct you to make your mind quiescent. A lovely word that is. But ultimately, your mind is not going to become quiescent simply by reading alone. The next question, perhaps the most important question. What is happiness? We all chase it, but what is it really? Ramana Maharshi says, happiness is the very nature of the self. Happiness and the self are not different. There is no happiness in any object of the world. We imagine, through our ignorance, that we derive happiness from objects. When the mind goes out, it experiences misery. In truth, when its desires are fulfilled, it returns to its own place and enjoys the happiness that is the self. How interesting is that answer? When we do experience pleasure from a gratified sense, it's only because our mind has gone out, achieved something, and returned to the self, which is happiness that you are. Similarly, in the states of sleep, samadhi, and fainting, and when the object desired is obtained or the object disliked is removed, the mind becomes inward tuned and enjoys pure self-happiness. Thus, the mind moves without rest, alternately going out of the self and returning to it. Under the tree, the shade is pleasant. Out in the open, the heat is scorching. A person who has been going about in the sun feels cool when he reaches the shade. Someone who keeps on going from the shade into the sun and then back into the shade is a fool. A wise man stays permanently in the shade. Similarly, the mind of one who knows the truth does not leave Brahman, the ultimate reality. The mind of the ignorant, on the contrary, revolves in the world, feeling miserable, and for a little time returns to Brahman to experience happiness. In fact, what is called the world is only a thought. The mind experiences happiness, and when the world appears, it goes through misery. You feel like you're right here in these sessions, for indeed, this book is very rare in that it wasn't penned by the one speaking. It's literally a transcription of a Sangha that happened so many decades ago in India. So you can really hear the questioner's sincerity and the timelessness of the responses. Questioner replies, "What is wisdom insight?" The Sanskrit word is jnana drishti that they're inquiring about. Remaining quiet is what is called wisdom insight. To remain quiet is to resolve the mind in the self. Telepathy, knowing past, present, and future happenings, and clairvoyance do not constitute wisdom insight. And thank you, likewise, dead girl. A very fascinating remark here, that spiritual powers, these are secondary to the power of being quiet. Now that is a very auspicious thing to do. What is the relation between desirelessness and wisdom? Desirelessness is wisdom. The two are not different. They are the same. Desirelessness is refraining from driving the mind toward any object. Wisdom means the appearance of no object. In other words, not seeking what is other than the self is detachment or desirelessness. Not leaving the self is wisdom. Well said, Gregor. Silence, the soundless sound that permeates all sound. 2 more questions and then the chapter ends. They're very short too. What is the difference between inquiry and meditation? Inquiry consists in retaining the mind in the self. Meditation consists in thinking that oneself is Brahman, the ultimate reality, Sat Chit Anandam, existence, consciousness, bliss. And lastly, the questioner asks, what is release? Inquiring into the nature of one's self that is in bondage and realizing one's true nature is release. So we end chapter 1 of the spiritual teachings of Ramana Maharshi. Very direct, non-dual. Tomorrow we may begin the second chapter, which is simply called Spiritual Instruction. So I'll make a little dog ear, and I'll minimize the book cover. I thank you for reading with me, and thank you to those who sent a gift whilst I read. Thank you, Carol Green, for your pair of tiny tinies. Yippee! And Sarah Lynn, thank you for your rose. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Tattvam Asi, for your fire. And thank you, Dead Girl, for your pair of roses. And thank you, Billy, for your pair of finger hearts. What do I think about a chanting segment tomorrow? Tomorrow? No, why don't we do one now? Here, I tell you what. I can quickly change the question of the day to be a mantra. Okay. Sorry, that took a second. Here I have typed the Mahamantra. We can chant it together. And thank you, Gabby, for your rose, your ice cream cone, your TikTok, and Gigi. Radhe Radhe. And Sacred Serenity. Thank you for your 62 roses. Alright. Hope this isn't too loud. I can put the manjira on the other side of the microphone. I'm just gonna start. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Just a little session, a little Nama Japa session. Thank you. I hope my singing wasn't too distracting from the sentiments at hand. Hare means salutations to the one whom steals the hearts of all Paramahansas. Krishna means the one whom forcibly attracts the minds of all Paramahansas. And Rama means the one in whom all Paramahansas dwell, where a Paramahansa means someone who is totally absorbed in truth, that they have lost awareness for even the world. Okay, let me minimize that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Haley Queen, for your 21 roses. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Sacred Serenity, for your hat and mustache. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Ragnhildr, for your rose. And Sherry O'Connor, thank you for your pair of tiny tinies. And thank you, Usha, for your balloons and 3 roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Babisu, thank you for your trio of finger hearts. I will be uploading the recording of this live stream to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel in case you wanted to get the most out of it. With the help of modern technology, I've written a program, as many of you know, that transcribes the video and converts the transcription into a whole chapter system. So if you open up the description of the YouTube video, you can click on a timestamp down to the minute of everything covered. So if you feel like it would be a hassle to go back to a certain part of the live stream, it is effectively hassle-free. And now that I've gotten better internet, I can upload them a little faster, which is nice. Now, on my other channel, Yamsox ASMR, we're doing a couple different things. For example, reading through the Bhagavad Gita with whispered tones, and in the background having rain sounds. And a few days ago I also uploaded a talking you down from a panic attack video. Hopefully not everyone here or anyone here is in the middle of one, so I don't expect you to go and watch it now. But if you do feel like such a video might be useful to you, you can save it to your watch later, or maybe share it to someone who might be experiencing anxiety. So it's a 30-minute video which includes all of the best tips and tricks that I use to get myself out of anxiety attacks, since I've certainly experienced a lot of them. And it's like a 6-step validation procedure, which starts from the world, takes you to your body, your emotions, then your mind, intellect, ego, and then even spirit. So we're validating the entire system of life from the outside in. To clarify Purusha, it's on my ASMR Yamsox YouTube channel. That is the second link in the link tree in my bio. Haley, you shared that you have a surgery for endometriosis in 1 to 2 hours. So nervous and anxious. Any advice? Well, perhaps you can find some fulfillment in that video. But before then, know that you're in good hands, literally. And it's a blessing that you are being attended to. Know that what you have done in your control has been to the best of your abilities. And by expressing yourself with professionals, you have come to getting this procedure done. And so I hope that you feel grateful for yourself in that you've showed up. Here you are, ready to take on this procedure for your betterment. And it will go well. Don't worry. Sometimes we have to surrender to our vulnerability. It is a very vulnerable time, especially to go through a surgery. And in that vulnerability, every breath that we continue towards it being completed is one more breath closer to healing. And it's the process of healing that you're already started on, even right now. Thank you, Sean, for your pair of roses and your tiny. Yippee! And Dorian, thank you for your heartbeat. Radhe Radhe. Famous, you ask, can I give you my jeans? I don't think they'll fit you. I think we have different waist sizes. Thank you, Kristen, for your pair of tinies and heart me. Yahoo! And thank you, Haley, for your 6-finger hearts. May this live stream be an offering to Radha Krishna, the Divine Mother and Father. Good morning, Dominique. The last thing I wanted to mention before going is that if you ever wanted something in return for supporting me, in the store section of the link tree in my bio, and now also the store section on the Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, I have the tiny on a toque, or a beanie as we say in other places of the world. I prefer the word toque because I'm Canadian. But the tiny says, Yippee! The other day, my sister was looking at my toque. I had offered it to her because she recently got her hair done, and she didn't want her hair to get wet in the rain. So I said, you can use my toque. And she was looking at it. She said, where do you get this? It's a cute dinosaur. I said, I got it from me. I felt very proud. It's my merchandise. And there's also socks there. Yamsox, which are socks with yams on them. You know, nice long socks. They come in both black or white. I happen to just have the black bear here, but you can imagine, just swap the black out for white and you'll see. That's a good place for them, actually. I should just put them here more often. And thank you, Haley, for your finger hearts and 2 rosas. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Juhan, for your heart me. Hari Om Tat Sat. I thank you to my lovely moderators who help ensure that this space is free from any unnecessary adversity between all of you. I'm very grateful for this time and for this opportunity to be in service of all of you. I hope that I've been able to connect in any way so that my experience may be useful to you all. Thank you, Billy. Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shyama, Radhe Shyama, Shyama Shyama, Radhe Radhe. Thank you, user 623, for your confetti. May you all have a beautiful rest of your present moment.